Alright, so for our felt rose project today, it has a very easy supply list, and I want to say first that I am using my Cricut machine for this, but you could absolutely use a pair of scissors if you do not own a Cricut machine. There are printable PDFs that go with this project on the blog, and these templates are completely free for you to enjoy. The leaf, the actual rose itself, and then I'm even throwing in a rosette. So the supplies you're going to need for this project, aside from your Cricut or a pair of scissors, is you will need hot glue in order to glue your felt together. I like to use a high temp hot glue gun. If you are using your Cricut machine, you are going to want a pink fabric mat for the felt that we are using. I am using felt in my preferred colors here, and one thing I like to do is, if you are able, and this is optional, to stiffen your felt. Sometimes you could find felt that is already pre-stiffened, but I've discovered that usually you can't find them in all the colors you like, so you can stiffen the felt for yourself by purchasing some Stiffen Quick, which I will link in the blog post, and you just want to spray it on the front and the back and give it a couple hours to dry before you start your project. So I have done this with and without the stiffening, but I like the effect of the stiffened felt because once your rose is together, the petals kind of hold shape a little bit better. If you are using a cutting machine, you can use your fine point blade if you have the Explorer, or if you have the Maker, I recommend using the rotary blade to cut your felt out with because it works really well for felt. And lastly, this part is completely optional, but I am going to show you how to just glue it onto a little bamboo skewer or a wood dowel if you want to be able to stem it like you see here, so you can create sort of a bouquet for somebody. And I'm also going to complete the project by assembling it onto a heartwood plaque as a Valentine's Day gift for someone in my life. So I am doing this with a heart plaque, wood plaque that I purchased from Michael's craft store. I'm going to paint it white, and I have a foam brush. This is just completely optional, but I wanted to show sort of a process of how you could display your flowers, one with a stemming option and one with sort of this fun plaque craft with felt flowers on it. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to first cut my felt out, and then we're going to assemble this rose. I'm adding in my rotary blade here for my Maker machine. You can also use the fine point blade. And I'm going to select a piece of my felt here. Since I already have a lot of red roses, I'm going to go with pink. So I am adding this to my fabric mat here. I've already stiffened this felt, and that is completely optional, but I have already stiffened it and I let it dry for a couple hours before I proceeded with this step. I have selected felt for my Cricut machine, and I have also, if you're using the rotary blade, you'll need to select edit tools to change it to the rotary blade. Otherwise, you can let it default to the fine point blade. So I cut enough here on this one piece of felt for 2 roses. So I'm just going to gather those for now and set them aside. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out the leaves. Alright, so we have all of our felt pieces cut out here. I have 5 of each size cut out. You may not need 5 petals each, depending on how your rose comes together, but I always like to have 5 in each size, just to make sure I'm covered before I go into making my rose. The templates are already pre-sized for you. I've also cut out some leaves here, as you can see, in green felt. So we're going to start with the rose, and we're going to start with the smallest piece here. The very first piece you want to just roll together, sort of like you're rolling up a cinnamon roll or something like that. So you just want to roll that together, and then grab your glue gun, and add a little dot of glue right there, and close it around itself. And that'll be the very center of your rose. We're working from the inside out on this project. All right, I'm going to grab another one in the smallest size here, and I'm going to put some glue right at the base. And then I'm going to place that little center piece we just did in the center and sort of wrap it around. Just like that. All right, we're going to repeat the process again. Adding a little glue at the bottom. Slightly overlap it with the petal we just added, and then close it. Just like so. slightly overlap it again with the very last petal you just added and hold it for a second for the glue to dry. And you should be down to one piece here of the very smallest petal size. I'm going to add my glue on, overlap it slightly with the last petal we just added, and close it around. There we go. So the very centermost point of our rose, the very center rosebud, has been built. Next, we're going to move on to the next largest petal. And you're basically going to continue to repeat the process of starting wherever your last petal was added, slightly overlapping, and then continuing the form. So very much a pattern, very rhythmic. Once you get it down a couple of times, you'll see it, how it just forms a really easy pattern. I always make sure I hold it for about 5 to 10 seconds so that hot glue can catch. Move on to your next piece. Slightly overlap it to the petal we just added. And once you get past the first smallest petal here, it can be a good idea to sort of, once you add that glue, pinch a little bit like this, and it will add a little bit more dimension to the petal there. And if at any point in time you feel you don't need to add in like the 5th petal of a certain size and you feel like it's going to look unnatural to try and fit it in, then don't do it. It's okay to skip a petal if you feel like it does not look natural to your flower. Here's where we're at so far on our rose, and I got 2 more petal sizes to add here. If you know anything about me and my blog, Abbi Kirsten Collections, you know that I love anything to do with flowers. I am a huge lover of paper flowers, and I do lots of paper flowers, but I like to do felt occasionally, and I haven't really done a lot of tutorials involving felt. Most of my templates can be used with felt already, but I wanted to actually show some. One of the reasons that I love working with felt over paper is because there's more flexibility. You're not worrying with like wrinkles in the paper, and they store really well. So if you're storing paper flowers, you could always run into the risk of potentially, squashing your flower and then maybe getting creases where you don't want creases, or crumpled paper on the edges of your paper flowers. But with felt, that's extremely hard for it to happen, even if they're in a slightly compressed situation, because it's just like fabric where you can sort of fluff things out and it's more malleable, so it works really well. This rose does take a little more time than some of, say, the paper flower roses that I make, but it has a lot to do with the fact that we're adding each petal at a time, and we're really making this felt flower come to life with a lot of depth and dimension. Alright, so there's how we're coming along now. Now, we have one more layer to add here to complete this rose. If you're wanting to make maybe a variety of sizes, you could stop here because it still looks really pretty at this size, and you can make some in a couple different sizes. If you're using a cutting machine, you can of course scale the template slightly larger or slightly smaller if you would like as well. For the last one, I really want you to focus on kind of pinching a little bit here when you're adding that glue on that petal, so that it really kind of gives it a little bit of dimension popping out, and it's not completely like flush with the petals in front of it. So kind of give it a little pinch like that, and it adds a little bit of dimension there. Alright, so once you get that last petal added on there, don't be afraid to sort of fluff out the felt petals a little bit. You've kind of been pressing onto the flower, trying to add each additional petal on. So if you sort of play with the layers, it will bring a little more life to the flower. Okay, so there we have our felt rose. It looks oh so pretty. And now we can add on some greenery if we like. At this point, if you're just gonna maybe have this stuck onto something, you could just glue, you know, the felt greenery right to the back there and your flower would be complete. If, however, you're wanting to add a stem, I use a bamboo skewer or a very thin wood dowel, and you could go ahead and glue that on there and then sandwich it like this, and then that way it becomes a stemmed flower. I also want to note before I glue that on there that if you're wanting your flower to be more vertical rather than horizontal with the stem, that when you're starting this very first center petal here, you could always glue it around the tip, and then your flower would end up just like this. You could probably even at the end kind of just stick it up there with some glue. Yep, that works, just like that. And you can also stem it that way, and then you could just poke a hole through this and thread it straight up. I'm gonna go ahead and show it though the way I've done these other ones here. I just a thin line of glue and place this right over the top. And then if you want, you can come along in here and drop a little bit of glue in some specific places to sort of fold up these leaves and make them hug to the flower a little bit more so it looks a little more natural. Okay, so there is our felt rose on a stem. That's one way you can do the stem. And then I'm also going to show you how to add these onto a plaque, which I am creating as a Valentine's Day gift. So if you want to mix up your style of felt flowers just a little bit, I want to show you a couple of things. So included in the templates is a free rosette template. These are very easy to roll up and make, and you can make them in a lot of different sizes, and then you can sort of just place them amongst these other roses. They also don't take nearly the amount of time, so if you want to have some additional filler, then that's really helpful. But I also want to show you an alternative approach to using the same petal that we used to make these roses. I have here what is called a little wool felt ball, and you can find them in different colors and different sizes. And I'm going to use this along with some additional felt that I'm going to cut with scissors, and then the same petals we used with our roses to make an alternative flower. So I have just a pair of scissors here. This is easy enough that I don't recommend you doing it on your cutting machine, especially since it's kind of very detailed, and sometimes very detailed things with your Cricut can be difficult with felt particularly. So all I've done here is I've cut a strip off. It's probably about an inch, inch and a half thick. And I'm going to fold this in half. And to get it to stick, we want to add glue. So just sort of like get an idea of where you're going to fold that directly in half there. And I'm going to come in and add glue just on the one side and fold it. Just like that. There we go. So you should have a folded strip like that. It's probably about ½ an inch wide or so. And then come in here and cut very small slits all the way down. Make sure you don't cut all the way through because we need that glued end to still be there. Now I am going to actually cut this thing in half because I only need about that much for one flower. Okay, so there we go, kind of fluff it out there so you see that detail that we cut. And then this little wool ball, I'm going to roll this fringe, is what I call it, around it to create a unique center for our flower. So I'm gonna add some glue here, place my little felt ball, and I will link my resources for my felt and my felt balls and all of the supplies you're seeing here in that blog post. So don't worry if you're not sure where to find this. I will give you online resources. Okay, so there is a center, and you know what? I actually want this to come around here, so I actually need to add a little bit more. So if that happens to you for any reason, just come in and cut a little bit more, and you can continue the roll very easily. Yeah, you could stop right there if you wanted to, or you could add another round of petals, which I think I'm going to actually stop right there, but you could add another round of petals. I just want something that's very simple looking, but different from our other group of flowers that we have going here. So this is an example of the rosette that is also included in the templates. And to make your rosette, all you need to do is start at the outermost edge here and roll it in towards you. Once you roll it like once or twice, start adding a little bit of glue to hold it in place. And then you can roll 2 or 3 times and then add another bit of glue. Keep rolling it until you get to the edge of where that little circle bottom is, and that's going to be our piece to finish this off. Add my last bit of glue right there first, and then we're going to add some glue right to the back bottom side and cover that up so it's nice and smooth in place. Whoops, there we go. All right, so that is another felt option for you, is that rosette, and then also how I showed you to do a different center for the actual rose. Okay, so if you're wanting to do this really cute heart plaque with felt flowers in the center, I'm just going to show you that part here. I purchased this at Michael's craft store, and I have some paint here, and you could also spray paint this if you want, but I'm going to do this with acrylic paint because I really don't want to use spray paint in my studio. So put a little paint right there. You may need to do 2 coats on this. If you're doing acrylic or if you're doing spray paint, you probably will need to do 2 coats no matter what, unless you want the wood grain to show through. I have this wood plaque here that we just finished painting, and I chose to paint it in white. You could do it in different colors. You could get wood plaques in different shapes and sizes, so don't be afraid to make it your own. But since it is around the Valentine's season for me right now while I'm filming this, I thought this would be a really cute project. So I've made a bunch of roses. I've made some of these, we'll call them, I guess, poppies. And then I've cut out some extra leaves and some of my rolled rosettes, which are all included in the templates for you. And I'm gonna first determine how I want my flowers assembled on here. I'm probably not gonna use all of this, but I wanted to have plenty to work with in different sizes and such. So I made sure that I had lots to work with. And I'm gonna start with just playing around with how I want this styled. Okay, so once you get your layout done, then you want to do something like maybe photograph it with your phone so that you can sort of use it as a reference as you're gluing things down, because you're probably gonna have to shift things just a little bit. So I recommend just getting your camera on your phone, take a quick little picture of what that looks like so you can have it next to you while you're assembling it. I'm gonna start with the 3 center ones here, so I'm going to move this off, get the leaves off, like that. I'm gonna start with this one, so it's kind of right near the center point. And of course I'm using hot glue here to glue each one of these felt flowers and leaves together as I had it styled on my plaque. And here is our completed heart plaque with felt flowers. Makes a beautiful little gift for somebody, or something you can hang up in your home, or maybe a child's room or nursery. And it's a super simple project that anyone can do. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.